Good.
We're
doing it.
13. Okay, we start. And here's the chapter.
I'm playing the music. Welcome everybody to the ResearchVR podcast. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm doing.
Wait. I promise I'm going to do the intro right this time. Let me get through the intro. I'll say hello to you. Hello everybody. Welcome back to the ResearchVR podcast. I am your host again, Oz Balabanyan, and for the first time I'm actually doing the intro correctly, not forgetting about it like every other time. And Mr. Mouthbeater over here is Mr. Peter Leckoff from Germany.
Hello everyone.
Joining in.
Welcome to the live stream.
Sorry if if you're hearing sounds and notifications. I think I need to mute some things. There are always. We're doing this live, like we've been doing for the past couple of weeks, just because it's been really fun. Actually, it keeps our production timelines like way quicker, so that we can turn these episodes around, and we give the audience the time to actually participate and kind of ask questions.
Exactly.
Peter, it sounds like you're in like university or something.
I'm actually right now at my work, and I hope that my co-workers will be a little bit more quiet around me. I don't see them, so I have to speak to them virtually. Not sure if they hear me, but we will filter it out later. I hope it doesn't disturb too much.
Let's see if we're actually live everywhere. Not live on Periscope. Not live on Facebook. Oh no,
we are losing our audience.
What's up?
No.
Why are we not live? Let's take a second. Give us a moment, guys. We're making sure.
Give us a moment. That moment I can maybe explain this whole live thing. So what we are doing is we're inside a virtual environment called Big Screen, and I and Azar are wearing those Oculus Touch thingies that we can interact with each other, we can speak with each other. We have a huge big screen in front of us, as the name already implies. And we usually talk about things. We plan to later invite guests as we develop this format. And we want to make it interactive, way more efficient, that we can deliver more shows and more entertainment to you. And that's, the road ahead. So feel free to give us feedback and, share your love for us.
I want to throw a shout out to Travis Barker. Actually, he's helping moderate the chat. So if you have questions, concerns, not concerns, just questions, nice things, and that you want us to answer, he's moderating it. We're live on we should be live on Facebook now. We are live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. That you want us to answer.
I'm gonna double check
moderating it. We're live. Okay, there we go.
Where do you hear yourself?
Then I'm just we're good now. Whew. All right, everybody. Now that we have the show running for the first time, should we get on with it?
Definitely. What do we have prepared for our lovely audience? You folks there right now. It sounded a little bit too movie,
yeah. We don't do the newscast thing on this show. Today, I really want to talk. We're going to get through a bit of the news, not the usual news. Some things that kind of stuck out to us, a few shout outs that I want to throw, and then get into our main topic, which is photogrammetry. I don't know if we've talked about it much before.
I think we had one episode with realities, right?
We did, that's right.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago.
The kings of photogrammetry. We talked a little bit of locomotion, probably in like episode 20 or 30. Sorry for if you guys are hearing the bings and the boops. I don't know if there's any way to mute Facebook. But we're going to get on with it. So the first thing I want to talk about today is ChromaLab. This thing is ridiculous. If you have a good GPU, let's say the 10 series GTX GPU, or I don't know what the min spec this runs on, but essentially it's like a huge particle simulator. Oh, let's go full screen. So check this out.
Wow, that looks impressive.
It's essentially you can create particles, you can interact with particles. You're inside of this like cube, so like the particles can bounce off the walls, and you can create these incredible looking things.
Yeah, maybe you can compare it to those sandbox games that you used to have in your browser, right? Where you would like stack sand on top of each other and would like make lava and stuff. And this is just in 3D and it looks super fancy.
It is, and honestly, like the video doesn't do it justice because being in there and seeing these particles kind of like be all around your face, like all around your body, all around your face,
Yeah,
it's a mesmerizing experience. It's one of the only things you can kind of do. Like, it's one of the apps that only can work in VR in terms of like why it's fun and why it
yeah,
actually makes sense. Um,
no,
but
absolutely. You don't
yeah,
want to mess your room with all that color and particles.
great. Hey, Travis, how are the streams looking? Let me know if it's choppy or whatnot. We're trying to keep the internet working in America. Um, but yeah, no, this is now available on Steam. Sean Tan is the guy that made it. One man team. I think the link, we'll drop the link in the description, and
Definitely.
so yeah, check it out, called Chroma Labs. I think it's a trip and a half. It's I've spent a lot of time in there actually just playing around with particles, playing around with like with different physics properties, and it
Yeah.
really does kind of play with your understanding of how our particles, work in this world. So, um,
It
yeah,
also shows a limitation in certain ways that we can't simulate that easy that many particles as we would like to, right?
right. So you can't. I mean, that's even a customizable thing. You can up it or down it in terms of the amount of particles based on your
Exactly.
GPU. But yeah, you can really push it up to, God, I think it's like hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
Yeah.
Cool.
There is apparently also maybe a side notice difference regards VR and Quadro GPUs and normal GPUs. Like when you have a 1080, you can use them for VR and they are ready, but there are also those Quadro professional GPUs out there that are actually already VR enabled, and you can use two of them. They cost enormous amount of money,
The
but
quadros, you mean?
yes, but there are Quadros that have all this VR NVIDIA support in them, like all the chips that do this. Rendering tricks, and you can use two of them and stack them together,
Can
and they
you?
render your.
But I mean, does that work with VR? I know quadros are
Yes,
obviously
yes,
meant for more
yes.
for like deep learning. Oh, they are. They
No,
can.
no, 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 no. They are VR optimized. There's one which I will put in the show notes. One line of them, the newest one that has all the optimizations from the 1080 regards VR, and you can do Sly with them. So you can combine two of them, and then you can like
SLI.
power. Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, Sly. I like Sly better actually.
Oh
So
yeah, SLI. Yeah, so
no, no,
all
no.
right. Yeah.
Sly. I like
I'm
Sly
sorry,
better.
I'm German. We are in Germany. Are not very good with language.
I like how your German accent sounds nothing German. Maybe that's
Oh
maybe that's how
gosh.
Germans do it. All right, our next topic. I wanna go through these quickly because I want to get to the main
Yes.
topic today.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's also a good topic.
this week has been Gamescom. And during
Mm,
Gamescom, I think it's the bigger. It's probably the biggest game-oriented
it is the
conference
biggest, yeah.
in Europe.
400 or 500,000 visitors. It's a lot.
Apart from
And Merkel was there.
I was gonna say, apart from Angela Merkel, actually, being at Gamescom, trying out Farming Simulator of all things, um, this
Yeah.
was
German things.
this was something that was shown. I'm gonna make actually, I'll just zoom in so you guys can read it. B Haptics Tact Suit promises a better actuator based haptics at lower price point.
Yeah.
So,
It looks very promising, and what's so special about it are the amount of actuators it actually has, right? How many does it has?
this has 87
Wow.
individual actuators. So,
So they are pushing you, right?
looks like 5 times 4, so it's 20 in the front, 20 in the back, and a bunch,
Yeah.
another 40, yeah, 20 and 20. Where are those?
On the head,
Yeah, I think
seems.
there are a few on
On
the
the
head.
neck?
They're just kind of spread out all throughout. Oh, I think they are on the
Oh,
arms
I
as
think they're
well.
arms. This is
Yeah,
arms, and this is maybe the neck.
that's right. So, I mean, this
Yeah,
is that. I think that their main claim to fame is that they are way more. They have way more points of actuators than
has a lower price,
than the
right?
others do. Um, I mean, the writer from Road to VR was saying that he was getting pretty hot after like 5 to 10 minutes of just wearing like a suit. But I mean, I don't know. I think these things are definitely like in their early stages, but there's
Yes.
definitely the fact that there's this many that are being built means there's some kind of demand and some kind of the experience, although it's not the best, I think there's
Well,
still
you
something
see,
really convincing about it.
I think it totally makes sense because, well, while we discussed smell, the last episode, smell is something that does not gain or give you that higher immersion as touching or feeling the world around you. Like we heavily rely not only on seeing the world, not only moving there, but actually feeling it around us, right? And if we can somehow make sure that you in a VR experience can at least feel the boundaries or feel something, this is like obviously the key. Like if this is a solution long term, I don't know how it will work out, but you're right. There are a lot of companies trying it, and it's
Yeah.
also kind of obvious why they're doing it because this is like really the future, basically. Hopefully,
It's
and it's working out.
I mean, I think you of all people know this, like the sense of touch and being able to like actually to grow a new sense, or let's just call it
Yes.
sensory substitution by its like real
Yes.
name, really will come from the sense of like touch and how I'm trying to show you guys my arm. I guess you can't see it. Uh, we have such sensitive skin, and
Yes.
that can really be used as the input for a new sense coming
We
forward. So
actually had this project on our university. It's
tell us
called
again.
FuseSpace.
Yeah, I
The
think
FuseSpace project is exactly sensory augmentation, like not substitution. No, it was substitution exactly.
substitution,
I always
right?
mix them up. Like you would wear 24 vibramotors or 32 around your belt, and it would, in the study we did in the university, basically point you where north is. And we wanted to figure out, or the university wanted to figure out whether a human can adapt a new sense or it can be substituted. And later on, they are right now building a product for blind people out of it, but kind of goes in that direction. You can use the touch to give certain information. They have a lot
Right.
of crazy examples where you can project images through needles on your back, or you can read with your tongue by electrodes, and it kind of works out. And we just need to figure out the right format, and it shouldn't be that bulky. But that's awesome. That's
Right.
a missing step towards more immersive worlds.
Well, I think we'll definitely see more coming on this regard. I still haven't tried any of them. Oh, actually, I recognize that Anchor battery that's being used.
Yeah,
It's a
I
20,000.
used it two
It's
weeks
this.
ago with a TV cast. Yes.
That's right. It's the same. That's the same battery as the TP Cast. And I mean,
Yeah,
I was gonna say it makes sense, but it doesn't really. I mean, it's just they could use any of them.
they're huge.
Um, so
Okay.
actually, it's funny that they're comparing themselves to Sub Pack, which
Yeah, the
I
Tesla
think
suit,
that's
by the way.
totally that
The
this is
Tesla
not a
suit
comparison, but
is,
sure,
yeah,
yeah.
well, the subpack is kind of very limited. However, the subpack at least gives you something,
The
right?
Sub Pack isn't a
But
haptic suit; it's a freaking subwoofer for music that's now being used for VR. Like, you know what I mean? I don't. But I don't want to stay on this
yeah, you have
topic
a
too long.
point. Yeah, you have a point. Yes.
I mean, it's a music product rather than a VR product.
We had actually an episode on subpack, which we
We
will link
did.
to.
We recently posted it with it was with
Yes.
Zach Jaffe, and it was a conversation I had with him a few months ago, kind of talking
Yeah,
about
it was a
music and
lovely
VR.
conversation.
It was really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
Next topic at hand is there was a new investment round coming in from who led this one? Donghua Capital for an esports VR broadcasting Silver.tv, and they've raised $9.8 million. And in the round was also, let's see, I'll zoom in so we can all see what's going on here. Oh, can we do it?
It
Can we
seems
do it?
like
Can we do
some.
it? Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Donghua Capital, Heuristic Capital, Zip Capital led, and
Partners.
additional funding partners DCM, Sierra Ventures, and the VR Fund and Samsung Next. Wow, there's some few more, and Sony Innovation Fund. The VR Fund having funded a ton of VR projects out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, the reason why I want to talk about this is because I'm kind of surprised because
Why?
oh man, so I don't know if you've ever watched a Sliver.tv live stream.
No.
What essentially they do is they they generate a 360 camera inside of a game inside of the game itself. Let's say Counter Strike. Like they actually don't generate a 360 camera. They generate multiple normal FOV cameras, and then they stitch it like exactly as 360. Hold up. No, you shouldn't be wowing at this. You should be like why are you stitching cameras if you already have an engine to work with?
Okay.
So,
I'm listening.
okay, so here's my experience with Sliver, and I actually spent maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours about 6 months ago, sitting down
Yeah.
and watching a CS:GO tournament. So they take the
Okay.
normal tournaments that happen in
Yes.
esports, the ones that are being broadcasted to 200, 300,000, and even a couple
Yeah.
million sometimes people watching, and they put you inside of the CS:GO environment. And then they put a big TV in front of you that is the actual live stream that they're doing, the first person view of the players.
Yes.
But it's like, oh, it's supposed to be much more helpful for you to be in the environment and seeing the
Yes.
players, running. However,
Sounds
it
good
sounds
so
great,
far.
right? But like the fact that you can't actually choose where you yourself are in the environment, you're in a 360 video. That,
Yeah.
like, first and foremost, that is in the environment that's not always ideal to watch, what's going on. So what you end up doing is just looking at the big screen anyway and like watching the
Yeah.
thing in there. And then every once in a while you look down and you're like, oh look, I see players running around, and like,
Exactly.
but you don't actually understand like the
Mm,
relationship and how accurate people are shooting. It's I don't know. I felt that I gave it really close. Like, I gave it a try, and I
yes.
wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, is
I
this
want to
val
defend it.
hold up, let me finish.
Okay.
I wanted to like actually test and see if there's more value in actually being in a 360 environment for in CS:GO, like actually being there and watching these people play. And that, quite honestly, the answer to it is 90% of the time no. And the only 10% of the time that it did make sense is only when you see the teams going at first, and all the players are still together, and it's cool to see that movement, and you can understand like how people are splitting and going into other roads. Apart from that, it's like you'd rather watch the first person view feed of the player because you care more about the accuracy of the player than you do about like where they are or where you are in the environment. So for that reason, what? So maybe.
Yes, I get your point. I think it's a very valid
All right,
argument. However,
give us the defense.
because I never tried it, so let me defend them. Be the devil's advocate. So what they are trying right now is this whole stitching. Well, they are doing the best out of the worst. So there is no 360 camera support in those games yet. Maybe it will come. So right now they figured out a hack, which is cool itself. They figured out a hack. Now, few of my colleagues who actually bought themselves privately Daydreams and Gear VRs actually most of the time use them just to watch YouTube. So just too lazy to look at the screen, so just lie in bed and look at a huge screen of YouTube. But actually quite convenient.
That's fair. I
So
mean, that's where we are too. We're in big screen, and that's
exactly,
essentially
actually in a big
it's an
screen.
app, so you can watch things
So
on a big screen.
I mean, as far as I understand, the 9.8 million were not invested in the current state, but to develop it further, right? And like
Yeah.
I would say there is potential. I mean, I'm not myself a big esports game fan. Like I'm not watching it 24/7, but some matches are awesome. And if you could, for instance, like really look around the players or do something more interactive than right now, how awesome would it be? But that obviously requires a huge support from the engine. Then you need to do some proper hacking around, whatever. It's like a huge amount of extras that you need to add. And right now they found an easy hack, and that's why they get the money because the idea is there.
Yeah, I
But
mean, they found
obviously
it.
it needs to improve, sure.
I agree. I mean, I just in its current state, there's just no reason to use it, and
Yeah,
so that's why it just confuses me as to why.
yeah,
I mean,
no, I
when there's
understand.
companies like Vreal that are essentially perhaps taking the idea a little too far in terms of how fast their turnaround cycles are, because they've been around for like maybe a year and a half, but I haven't seen them integrate
Yeah,
themselves into more than one game, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, that's
where's
sad.
that coming? So, and for something like this, we're like, oh, we'll just generate camera viewpoints and then stream that out. Like, it's easier and faster to do. I get that.
Yeah,
But like
yeah,
at the end, it still comes back to the value proposition and whether it
yeah,
actually makes sense for the full, that million people that are watching live. Even if you have 10% of that watching in VR, is that a better experience than watching it just on Twitch?
true, true.
So that's just the big question. I'm really into, streaming. I'm into watching esports
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
So it's a personal. I'll take this
Well,
personally.
I understand. Before you click away, wait. There is
Okay. All
another
right. All right. All
news there about Fallout 4.
right. What you want to talk about Fallout 4?
I don't want to talk so much about Fallout 4, but I just wanted to ask you: have you ever tried it
Fallout?
in VR? In VR?
No, I haven't tried it in VR.
Because I read a lot of things from Gamescom, and we mentioned Gamescom, that people tried the new version of Fallout VR, and they say that it might be a big disappointment for people. And as
Oh,
much as we are not about games, this might have a huge impact.
maybe. I mean, I'll take people's word for it. in terms of how I think it'll be one of the system sellers for sure, and Vive has it coming. But we don't want to go into
Yeah, no.
into
Just wanted to ask that. Oh my gosh,
nope,
what is this?
that's not something I wanted to talk about. Rec Room,
Oh,
Rec Room's
I
awesome.
played recently Rec Room. It's actually very impressive.
Rec Room is, oh my God, they're for one of the only companies, one of the only products that's just been really, really quickly innovating on what they've
Yeah,
already built. And like they're essentially making
so much
now
fun.
World of Warcraft style quests to go through and dungeon
Hmm.
raids to do with your friends. It's really brilliant.
And it's not easy. Like it
They're not easy.
really,
You can't really do it by yourself. So that
yes, and you need a lot of coordination. So it's not just, you swing around the sword. You really need to do tactics and stuff.
that's right. I just wanted to throw a quick shout out to them for really like they were one of the innovators in the social VR space. They I think were the first ones that integrated a lot of a lot of the um, advancements that the Google Daydream Interactions Lab team announced like in 2016. They had an
Hmm.
awesome talk that was like, we prototyped for this many weeks. This is all the stuff that we learned. I think Against Gravity, the people that made Rec Room took a lot of those findings from Google and integrated it into Rec Room. One first and just to name a few, the first being that a social VR experience is not just a place to go and to talk to people. It's actually should
Yes.
be the approach should just be that you go into there to do something, and by chance there are other people to do it with, and that's what makes it fun. So I
Yes.
think, I mean, this is, if you're a fan of alt space, or like if you're coming from that angle,
Hmm.
uh, there's a lot of things that are different about alt space and about Rec Room, and I think it goes to show that Rec Room, like how well Rec Room is doing compared to alt space, who is now back from the dead, and
Are they? Are they back? I
oh
kind of
yeah,
heard some rumors.
don't worry about your screen, Peter. Don't
Yeah.
worry about your screen.
I wanted to read the comments. We have some comments on Facebook.
Travis, let us know what's going on the chats, and if we should be answering some
Exactly.
of our wonderful people.
Exactly.
And actually,
Yeah.
before we move to our main topic, I wanted to talk quickly about the Wizards, and
Oh.
it's a game on Vive that came out, and that just added locomotion. Um, and this is the reason I want to talk about it, is because it's too many games that keep coming out that just have teleportation. I don't know if this is
Hmm.
my first rant or not. Probably I've probably done this a few times throughout the almost
Really?
50.
What do you have against teleportation?
I think, okay, the thing I have against teleportation, I'll say this again, is that you don't develop a cognitive map of where you are. You don't
True.
develop any kind of, let's call it a slam system in your own head of where the places, and it completely destroys the grand scale of things. So, I think a way around that is actually just floating. So one of my favorite things right now is like Lone Echo, and Echo Arena, amongst
Hmm.
and I'll throw a shout out to Lucid Trips as well, because they were kind of one of
Hmm.
the first or earliest ones to integrate hand-based locomotion. But it's basically moving through an environment like you would want to move, rather than like, oh, I want to go there, I'm going to point my
Yes.
hand there and then click a button and end up there. Like, this is like, oh, I'm going to grab the world
Yeah,
and
you're
like
literally
move.
like crawling through. Yeah,
It feels
it's nice.
way better. It's incredibly immersive. I haven't played the Wizards update yet, but like I just wanted to throw them a shout out for adding that in, and also as a warning and a precursor to the other developers that are watching and listening to this. If you're going to launch an action game in VR, or something that's going to require agility and movement, do not launch with just teleport. Like, don't even make that the primary
Hmm.
locomotion device, because not only will Reddit shit on you, but YouTubers and Twitch streamers and probably me will not be happy. Like,
And I will tell you something. If Azad will not be happy with you, you will get so bad ratings everywhere. Like you will be dead and bankrupt. I actually have one small announcement. I'm right now preparing, and at some point I might be ready, an episode where we can actually discuss particularly one of the topics, because I am not sure if VR is just about embodiment or maybe the extended mind theory. And I think what you just described goes in that direction.
embodiment or extended mind theory, are they, I
Exactly.
mean, I'm thinking
Yeah,
through that, are they at
exactly. It's not easy.
opposition?
Kinda. They're not necessarily the same. That's the thing.
So are you
I'm
saying
reading some. Yeah. Okay. So look, it's very basic. Just imagine you have a puzzle. If you take your puzzle and interact with your hands with it, and you would build it yourself, that's kind of embodiment. If you first look at the puzzle and start to build it in your head, and then you do it, then it's kind of the extended mind theory. And the question is, when you start to teleport, you definitely, and it's more about other things, but just an example, when you teleport, you don't, do this cognitive map, whatever, so the embodiment is not that strong, but you still interact with the world as it is, part of your mind. But when you do the opposite and crawl through it, then it's embodiment, but both can have an advantage, right? And that's something I'm really trying to figure out. And if any of our listeners knows someone or knows themselves the difference between embodiment and the extended mind theory and can explain it regards VR, I'm more than happy to invite you as a guest and listen to your opinions. Please, my head is boiling and I'm reading papers and I'm going mad.
Sure. So the question is embodiment or extended mind theory, and how?
Yeah, and how do they play in VR against each other? Yeah.
Yeah. So send us your comments. We've been getting some really cool emails from people actually. Just like someone emailed us about the Subpack article or the episode, and they were really excited about the recommendations that were given in there in terms of the music VR experiences. So we really like seeing those. If you have comments, actually add them to the podcast. Or the podcast listeners that you use, and I'll just reiterate this, but if you're on audio and you're listening to this via podcast, make sure to leave us a review. It really helps us out. Or if you're watching us live, know that we have a podcast and subscribe to us on our podcast feature. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Moving on.
Wonderful. Moving to
our
drum rolls.
Main topic of the week, which is photogrammetry.
Whoa,
so this looks that's a nice picture, right? A nice photo.
It is.
Guess what?
Is it real?
Guess what? Dun 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 dun.
Oh my god! Did you sculpture it yourself?
I did no such thing. I did no 3D reconstruction. This is all actually. This is it. This is a 3D reconstruction. What I meant to say is I didn't model it myself.
You didn't sculpture it.
This is a curvy tree, and it's something I captured yesterday by just walking around it and taking photos.
Was your iPhone or was it DSLR?
This one's with a DSLR.
Okay.
I was spending, and the reason we want to talk about this is because this is actually not a new method, but it's been around a little bit in game design. But I think it's making the biggest, and it's gonna make the biggest impact still over the next couple of years. 3D photogrammetry or 3D reconstructions of photos. That's essentially what a photogrammetry is. It takes many photos that essentially have, let's say, 50 or 60% overlap of what are in the pictures. Oh my god, Facebook, just shush.
So maybe as a side note, the iPhone kind of does it too with the cameras. It kind of can separate certain things, but here the depth information is used for more. So it's basically the same as the iPhone, just with more photos.
There's literally no depth cameras. There's no IR cameras. It's all.
Oh, but
I'm gonna have
to. The iPhone can also
Facebook. This is
you can do
ridiculous.
It, but while you do it, the question is: does the iPhone with the 2 lenses system and the 7 Plus? It can also measure the distance by 2 photos, right? And can do this bokeh effect.
That's doing that technically that's
technically the same.
Okay, so that's doing something very different and for a completely different effect as well.
Okay.
So photogrammetry is essentially, from what I understand, computer vision that is it's based on a lot of computer vision principles, and it takes reference points between pictures. So let's say features, dash, lines, and even and also pixel colors, and matches them as reference points, and then compares every photo that you took of this, of the object that you're trying to take a photo of, and then compares those photos together. So notice these dots that are around. Those dots are where I took the photos from. You see that?
It looks to the audio listeners like a cloud of dots around this reconstruction tree.
It kind of looks like an atom, kind of, you have electron shells around, because I was doing kind of an orbit maneuver where I was going around every step. I took a step, photo, and so
Did you have a system, or you just randomly go around?
I do. I mean, I have a mental system of things that I want, how I want to go through. So yeah, I'm just gonna still talking a little bit about how it works.
Yeah,
After
sure, sure.
you take the photos from high and low, basically like far out where you have the entire object, and you can also go in closer to get those really detailed
Mm-hmm.
textures. Um, you then put it into a software like this, which is it's called reality capture, which then aligns your photos, and then
Yes.
I can actually show you guys what the photos look like.
Ooh. We just dropped one of the photos in the menu, and now like one photo of the tree
These are just,
from
yeah.
one side, but it's just 2D.
So yeah, they're just photos. I mean, there's even
Humans,
inconsistencies
yeah.
between photos where that's a person in that corner, but like if it
Yeah.
doesn't see that person in any other photo, it's just going to disregard it. Um,
Okay,
so
looks really impressive.
it really is impressive. After this, it creates a dense point cloud. That's the beauty of it, is that it actually is super high quality. This model in particular has, let's see how many polygons. Um,
Yeah, and the magic with point clouds is you can do all kind of filtering to create a beautiful mesh out of it.
This is a 20 million polygon, and even reduced down to 1 million polygons, it still looks fantastic. So the reason why
It is.
it looks transparent is because it's still a point cloud, and I haven't,
Yes.
created it into a mesh. But
Because each point doesn't have a necessary orientation, and that's what you need for a mesh.
that's right. It's kind of like a voxel, right? Like,
Yes.
I'm gonna open up a few other things and just kind of show a few examples of what I've been working on this week and why, and we'll get into a discussion as to why we
Oh my
think
god.
photogrammetry is really freaking cool, and how it's going to be really relevant. So, unfortunately, when I open up the files, it's you're not seeing the mesh. These are all on Sketchfab actually, and you can go and download them and add it
Oh, you will link to them. Nice.
game. Like literally, I've made this for free. You can even make money off of them. That's how free
Yeah.
I've made it. um,
You're a very gorgeous person.
well, only
No,
with
you
the
don't say gorgeous.
afro. I'm not a gorgeous
This is
person.
gorgeous. No, how do you say it?
You're a great person. That's what you're supposed to
Yeah.
say. I'm not. I just
Generous.
yeah.
No, sorry, it was generous.
Yeah,
Not
generous.
gorgeous, generous.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm trying to flirt here with my co-host. Oh my gosh, I'm
I'm
getting red.
we can tell. We can actually see how you're blushing on your cheeks in your
Yeah.
avatar. So let's talk a little bit about this, Peter.
Yes.
When you have technology like this, which is essentially, I kind of describe it as like a photograph, like plus
Yeah.
plus, because it's not just a picture, but it's actually a capture of the full environment, and in its entirety. It's basically it's a slice of time and space that you've captured, to a certain
Yes.
resolution, and you can go higher or lower in resolution depending on like how you capture it. So for VR, like we've seen apps like Realities, which has taken that idea and really run with it, where they've created everything in the app is made out of photogrammetry. It's actually not even a combination of assets. It's all just like one place and one asset, and they specialize in recreating a space in its like full form. Other people haven't. Other people usually use it to like capture, let's say, an ornament like that, and then add it into their game, so that it's a realistic asset. So there's multiple approaches around this, and I'm actually really interested in seeing like how this is going to affect AR, because like when you have photorealistic assets, then and if you remove the lighting and whatnot, and add it back into the real world, then there's essentially very little distinction that that's not actually there. You see
Yes.
what I mean?
I totally see that coming.
Oh,
It
sorry,
obviously.
we move into
Yes.
it, we should probably answer a few questions. How accurate? So let's see. Travis Barker is asking me. Travis, by the way, let us know the names of the people that are asking these so that we can give them a shout out. Someone's asking what is photogrammetry. We just answered that. How accurate are the models captured by photogrammetry? Well, you can see for yourself.
Yeah,
Oh
it's very
no.
accurate. It depends on many factors, is what I would say, but it is resolution of your camera, the quality of the
Sorry.
photos, how still you are, and also the amount of calculation power you put into it. So it obviously is the fact is when you calculate longer, the algorithm can basically, as far as I understand, it obviously has many optimizations, but it's mostly brute force. So it brute forces the structure of the object through the different photos by aligning them and testing it out. And the more brute force you apply and the more calculation power you throw in, the more high quality your photos are, the better it is. And what you can actually do is even project structure light. Like you take a projector. There are projects where you take few cameras from different angles and you rotate the object and you would project a special pattern that helps the software to recognize it. But what Azad shows here, and this is very impressive, is just outside with a camera and then post-processing. So if you do it with your iPhone, I would say in real time the quality wouldn't be as good, but this looks really astonishing.
iPhone. I mean, I've done a few iPhone things as well.
But not live processing, right? You still need to wait.
None of them are live. This one, I also discovered something really interesting is that you can actually also pull frames. Where is it? There it is. So this is in Croatia. This was a huge valley that I was in, and I was flying my drone around, just kind of going about my day, and I was shooting in 4K, and the video was very, very stable. And at the end, I realized I'm like, I can actually pull these frames and run them through reality capture, and then get a real 3D map of like where I was and the video that I shot. And I'm currently working on like being able to recreate those drone shots in Engine, like in the photogrammetry model, and like switching between real life.
And it was not your plan, right?
I mean, it wasn't at first, but it is now.
Exactly. Yeah, but sure, but you're kind of taking footage that was not even, meant to do exactly what you just did, right?
And what you can tell with the lines here, those are actually where I was flying, and like that's where I was capturing. And so check this out. Like I flew an orbit around this fort, and so the detail really comes through.
Yes.
So I think this should also be up on Sketchfab as well. My username there is Wizard of Oz, and Oz with an AZ. You can find it there. We'll link it as well. Feel free to download and mess around. But it is freaking neat, dude. Like what I really want this to be is like I want it as AR decoration in my room. I just want like a block of a valley, just like placed onto my, or actually placed vertically on my wall, and like, why? I don't know. I think these photorealistic assets look awesome in AR.
Well, last time you showed me your small AR example, I even didn't believe that it was, fake. Kind of thought you really have some weird stuff in your garden that looks like a city.
Oh, the AR kit?
Last episode, yeah. So when you used your models that you scanned and you were showing me the video, like big screen on the last episode where you were projecting it somewhere, I also thought for a moment it's real. So
right. So that
goes beyond realism.
So what you're talking about there is that I took one of these models, put them into AR kit, and then placed it onto my on the ground, and
in your garden, and it looked really real. Like
it really does.
Not,
I mean, I'm the reason I'm trying to talk about this is because I haven't seen enough photogrammetry, or like even interest enough around photogrammetry as a method to create things in VR and AR. And
how long did it take you to calculate the models?
So that ornament took me less than 5 minutes. I think maybe 5 minutes to capture, and then the processing maybe took me 20 or 25 minutes. Like that's how fast it was.
Wait, on what kind of machine do you have?
I have I'm running a 1080 on a, I mean, it's a pretty beefy machine. Like it's a
but it's a standard machine, not a cluster.
Core i7 6700K like processor.
Okay, so it's not a cluster, just a normal gaming PC.
One GPU.
Wow. 25 minutes. Wow.
Maybe, it might have even been less than that. I mean, these models I think definitely take more time.
I mean, in fact, I played myself with photogrammetry once, where I was I actually took a course on that, and we used different software. It was open source, and it took ages.
Well, that's the beauty with this with reality captures, that they're way quicker. It's not free. They have it on Steam, and I think it's like $30 a month or something.
It's fine.
So this is made out of 400 photos, and like it's kind of one of my favorites because you'll see this environment in the Realities app in a few months time
I mean,
actually.
wait,
And
there's like a total use case for it. Like, let's say a place is going to be torn apart, or you have to, move on, and you never see your home place again. Just make a nice 3D scan of it, and you always can revisit it when you're old. Like you can really capture memory,
that's exactly it. Like
but
I think it's gonna
yeah,
once the process is simple and you don't have to think about all these things, you don't have to be an expert in photogrammetry to
I
do it.
mean, come on, the next drone from DJI will, have some crazy mode where it just fly randomly and do photos from all angles, and you will have it done, right?
Once they have sensors all around, kind of like the Phantom
Yeah,
4, it has total capabilities of doing that. And
yeah.
there's already apps like Drone Deploy that use
Ooh.
the third party, DJI SDK, and it's made for farmers so that you can block out your farm, and then the drone flies itself, scans, brings
Yeah.
it back, and then gives you a model.
Okay,
So
but it goes beyond. Like, let's say we have someone listening right now who is a developer and he wants to build a game. Like, you go to Unity, so you have some kind of either expensive or very shitty free assets on the asset store, and you kind of want to have this beautiful mountain, and you apparently live next to a beautiful mountain. So you get just this tool, you figure it out like you did, and you can basically create beautiful assets even for your game in VR or whatever. It's like you get it for free. You just scan the environment and then you let it calculate, and then it looks astonishing. Like, why even bother sculpturing if you
yeah,
get the nature?
I think there's a trade-off when it comes to like simple there's certain things that you wouldn't want to recreate with photogrammetry, or it would be easier to
Is it is?
model. But when especially when there's real life involved, there's so
Yeah,
many unnormal what do you call it, bumpy, or just
yeah.
not symmetric things, so photogrammetry works perfectly with these things. And one of my favorite are just like the rocks. Like I keep coming back to this, and you can't
Oh,
really see it in when it's a point cloud like this, but this is like a Minecraft looking um
yes.
blocky cliffside. It's really wonderful. And so going back to your point of like capturing like things that are really dear to us, I think people will not only obviously capture themselves and like their faces and family photos and environments, but like more of like down to objects and the rooms that they grow up in, and they want to capture it in that point of space, like point in time, um
Yes.
and re-experience it. Someone, actually, Isaac Cohen Kabibo told me, he mentioned this the other day, where he was like, honestly, if you want your room to be clean, you just need to clean it once. You do a photogrammetry capture of the interior, and then if you're
Yeah.
like, let's say, meeting up with someone, or even 5 or 10 years
Yeah,
down the
just a
line,
Skype thingy, yeah.
it's all just like suddenly you can overlay your room as a clean room, and it could look really clean, and like, or at least to your
Yeah.
eyes, or to someone with
Yeah, I
AR
mean,
eyes.
yeah, it's like people sitting without pants but with a suit during this job interviews on Skype, right?
That's literally me right now, except I'm not even wearing a suit up top. So
Okay.
everybody, let us know. I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of photogrammetry? Have you
Yeah,
tried
and
it?
maybe you have some other experience yourself. Maybe you created models. The most awesome you share with us, we will actually maybe show next time, just for fun of it,
Right.
and acknowledge
Actually,
your amazing work.
I'm gonna ask a few questions, or answer a few
Yes,
questions.
questions. Interactive. We are
Um,
interactive. We are an interactive media cast.
sorry,
We listen to
let me
our
fix this.
we listen to our audience. We
One,
we are we are the new medium.
uh,
We are the reason television is dying. We are the reason radio is dying.
I'm so glad Peter can.
And to be honest, what I really am kind of impressed is we are right now in VR, and Azad is running VR on his machine. And while Azad is running VR on his machine, he's opening an application that shows a huge 3D scan of a huge rock that he's being able to stream not only to me, but to, hundreds of people, thousands of people out there. Like, technology makes it so easy to communicate. It blows my mind away.
It does blow
I
my
know.
mind too.
It's
I'm
just
gonna
so
open up a
easy.
few more things so people can see. While we answer some questions, Travis
Yes.
is asking, what drone do you fly the most? So that was all done with the DJI Mavic. The
Nice.
Mavic is a freaking beast of a. It's not save that. The Mavic is probably one of the coolest and best drones that DJI has made.
How expensive is it?
It's
1,000, right?
just $1,000. It's a combination of like a 4K. It's almost like
Yeah.
a phone 4K camera, like an iPhone's 4K camera. It's that
With a
size
stabilization.
with a beautiful
Gimbal.
three-axis stabilizer, and the video footage that you get from that is incredible.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, it's also great for stills because you can take raw images. So
Wow.
this is an example.
Really?
Yeah, you can take raw. You can take raw with it and JPEG.
Okay, guys and girls out there, don't spend your money on the new iPhone 8. Just save the $1,000 and buy this drone, and do awesome stuff with it.
It's really
Seems to
cool.
be more.
So this is a part of a castle in Armenia.
Wow.
This big fort. Actually, let me see if I can pull up the full composite. I don't have the rest of it. This will also come in realities. Click solid, not vertices.
Click, boom.
Oh,
click,
wait, Travis is telling me how to fix things.
How?
He's telling me how to make it into a solid and not vertices. Where is that? Travis, show me.
Mesh? There's a mesh.
No.
Render.
So that mesh it creates it as it exports out a mesh.
Oh yeah, no, it should actually have a different view when you tell me. Like there is a program for free, by the way. It's called MeshLab.
Yeah.
MeshLab is open source. It's great, so you don't necessarily need to get this to edit point clouds and meshes,
right.
but this one seems to be better. And MeshLab, you can also select between points and like this other view that. Yeah.
Oh well, we'll come back to that. Thank you, Travis. Looks like he's got some experience himself. So this is another question for our listeners and viewers to kind of get into. Where do you really see photogrammetry? I mean, take away all the constraints of of having like a DSLR, which you don't need. You can do it with an iPhone. Take away the after post processing in reality capture. So and to that point, I think where we are right now with the Tango phones is that you can actually do a lot of this in real time. And I'll show some examples.
Before you show the examples, I want to just emphasize one thing. There is a company called Alphabet that used to have Google, or Google belongs to it, and they make a flagship phone called Pixel, and there are apparently rumors that the Pixel 2 is coming out, and I don't understand why the company that has created Tango, that is, from my perspective, from a technological way at least, more superior than our AirKit, not putting the Tango in their main flagship phone. So, hey, if anyone has the answer for it, please tell it to me on my Facebook.
I have the answer. I have the answer. Guess what? When the Pixel came out, or I guess the Pixel 2 is coming out now too, Tango was still way too heavy. Like it takes a lot of processing power. It also, that's why the Fab was such a huge thing as well in terms of the battery. Like the Fab 2 Pro, the first Lenovo phone.
Make a mod that you can attach to the Pixel. I mean, they're smart guys. They can figure it out. It goes or whatever. Smart people.
At this point, like they're creating just special like the apart from the Qualcomm 835 processor, but like they're creating units, hardware that's going to be just dedicated to processing these things, just like the tensor processing unit. I mean, that's going to be a whole like line of things. So this is Manuel's scan in France. For some reason, Sketchfab is running really badly on my computer. But I think
it's because you have a very huge mesh open in your browser, and browsers are not that much optimized to make huge 3D rendering.
Well, it works on my Mac, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they have.
Some beautiful. Stocks. Thank you, Travis. He's still sending me tips on how to fix it in RC. But yeah, let's just take a look at this. I mean, this was made on a phone instantly, and the calculation was done on the phone, and he uploaded it to Sketchfab.
But this looks very good.
When this becomes just fully integrated, like what kind of apps do you see arising from this?
There's one. I mean, one case that I can totally mention that goes even beyond that is definitely interacting with humans, have holograms of people. Like that's something I really want to have.
Kind of like a
holographic
one-time asset capture of yourself, and then you're having a
maybe, and then adjusting it to your movement or whatever, or all the time capturing your point, like what Microsoft showed in that one video. I will also link to it, where they basically,
the HoloLens.
exactly, HoloLens
conversation.
and this little girl being beamed like as a hologram there. But another application is literally just, you know, beyond capturing moments and stuff. You can take this scene. You can take many scenes, they're in 3D, and you can combine them. Like we use right now Photoshop with photos. You could, instead of, taking photos, you can take 3D reconstructions of those places and just basically, we have a desk here, just combine them and throw them in together and maybe create even more art for movies, for some kind of, I don't know, post-processing, or
Well, I
just the
mean,
creativity factor should be
those
higher, right?
are being used currently. Like movies use photogrammetry to create their CG models sets like
Really?
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Think about it. It's the same. They go through the same processes as games, but instead of
true.
modeling them, they'd rather have things look super realistic, and they don't have any rendering constraints. They have whole
Yeah,
offline render farms that
yeah,
can take days to render a single frame. So yeah, like for movie making, I think that's already being implemented. But I'm just thinking more on just like the base level, like your mother. How can your mother use something like this? Um, and it doesn't have to be also on like the capture side. I think on the consumer side, as in like to experience these things and to use them on a regular basis, that could be also that's something what I'm thinking about. Um, like memories are so important. Are
yes,
you're out of the
that's definitely true.
you're out of the frame. Come closer. Come closer. Whoa there, buddy. Too close.
Whoa, whoa,
Our
whoa, whoa, whoa,
avatars
safe
are
zone, safe zone.
yeah. We have our privacy zones.
Yes, no problem. It's very
um.
important.
So I really do think that memories are going to be
Yes.
the driving force behind photogrammetry of how well it can capture these things. However, the viewership experience is still a question whether
Yeah,
you'll re-experience them in VR or like have them as smaller AR scaled maps
yeah,
that you're looking at. I'd
yeah,
love to get some thoughts on that on people. If you've messed around with some of this, if you already have a working prototype of what you'd love to see, we'd love to show it and show it in our next episode. So let us know what you guys are thinking. I'm still scanning, and if you have cool pictures and videos from your drone that you'd want scanned, send it to us. You can find me on Twitter at AzadUX, AZADUX, or you can email it to us at researchvrcast at gmail.com.
yes.
Um,
We have multiple channels to reach us, and
that's right.
we are
Um,
looking forward to the lovely feedback and ideas. Because, to be honest, we are doing the show here, and we are trying to pretend we're super smart and we know everything about VR and stuff. But to be honest, there's, to my understanding, not many people out there who, can grasp the idea where will it go really, really, really properly. Because it kind of needs forecast abilities that are beyond magic. Because like a lot of those medium properties develop so fast, intermix with each other. There are some slowbacks, drawbacks, and it's like Apple releasing the iPhone. No, Apple releasing the how do you call the watch? The iWatch,
the
the
Apple
iWatch,
Watch.
and the Apple Watch. Yes, and they had like a lot of constraints built in the beginning because they thought people will use it more, so they kind of outloaded the processing power to the iPhone, right? And now they kind of allow the apps to run on the watch itself because they basically figure out people don't interact too much with it. It's fine. And the same thing goes, but way more difficult with AR, VR, mixed reality, all those terms. We are just experiencing a lot of things. Like, when, you can run on a very basic, just high-end game machine. This crazy algorithms that can reconstruct the 3D meshes, right? What can you do more? Like, what are the options? And how will this, from the moment it's created, open opportunities to other people who don't want to mess up with this whole process, but actually want to be creative or want to create some educational stuff of it or industrial orientation? Like, you could even use this photogrammetry, except with reflection, it kind of works not very well in industrial cases where you can, just remap once a day with a drone your whole facility and then just basically check by machine learning other crates where they should be or
Also,
whatever.
because you can
Just a very basic case, but it's not implemented yet, and there's like a lot of space out there for that. So we all together need to shape the future, and that's why it's so important that we are not here, just telling you our ideas, but you share them with us and we discuss them together.
yeah, it's really a bizarre kind of topic, and I think
Yeah,
and it's easy to kind of fall into like one mode of thinking, like functional fixedness when it comes to a form
yeah,
of tech, and it really takes like people from completely different perspective coming in and be like,
Yeah.
actually, I would love to use this for fashion. You know, like I'd rather have
Yeah.
like model. Actually, I have no idea how fashion would work with this, but you know, you can see where the thinking can go. I think one of the
Well,
coolest
maybe there are some fashion people out there who know.
could be, could very well
Yeah.
be. I think photogrammetry has
Yeah.
made me want to go into farming and get
Good.
into no, seriously, and like get into like growing like a really high efficiency farm that's
Whoa.
continuously being monitored by drones and also being irrigated by drones. And that's
Wow.
totally a feasible thing right now. Like DJI is probably at the top of their game when it comes to the
They
irrigation
actually have
aspect.
those drones
Hmm.
for using fertilizer and stuff. They have like those drones that are, I think, over 20 or 30K in the price, and they can carry like 20 or 30 liters. I don't know how much it is in your currency, but like, I don't know, 20 bottles of cola or 30 bottles of cola, and you can basically or 20 bottles of 1 liter cola, whatever. And you can basically carry fertilizer or some kind of pesticide in it and can directly spray it on the plant that needs it. Like there's also a direction. You can use drones obviously for delivering blood,
Hmm.
to a patient, but you can also use it to maintain this very mixed garden. And I mean, what you just described, I kind of see there are a lot of different plants growing together and sustaining each other, not this monoculture stuff we are used to. We just spray everything on, like, it's carpet bombing, but we actually very precisely
It's very
control it and
very
let it
precise
together
and
grow.
like
Yeah.
literally like and it's not just like spraying but also like analyzing
Yes.
which plant is being sprayed and how much it needs to be sprayed. So like
Yes.
there's
Yes.
a drone essentially is just, rather than thinking of it like a small plane, think of it as like a moving sensor or a moving camera. I
Yes.
mean, yeah, it's been a moving camera for me. It's just a something that can go in X, Y, or Z, and I can just tell it to go whichever way. But you can also change that to become a water hose or become,
Hmm.
it's any kind of other sensor. So but going back to the models here, I think like when it comes to farms, like you can imagine literally mapping out down to the individual fruit that you have in your plant, and like
Yeah.
going into and like seeing exactly what the colors of each fruit are, how big they are, like doing analysis on the volume.
Yeah.
Um, one other really cool use case that keeps coming up is like construction companies can now have
Yes.
their buildings being built every single day continuously, so like
Yes.
investors that are far off can look at their, or just let's say the foreman can like just have
Yes.
a model in
Absolutely.
front of them and understand what's being built, how, and even before they build. I saw a YouTube video yesterday where some people that are really into building tree houses, I think it was like a TV show, they scanned out the place before, like they scanned out the plot with the trees that they had, and then they modeled the tree house within the trees before they even built it. And that's something that tree
Wow.
house builders have never had, because you can
Wow.
imagine how hard it is to model something before you build it, especially with an
That's for
organic
sure.
thing like
Yeah.
trees. So like
Mm.
every day I keep seeing new and interesting things coming from photogrammetry.
Is it that you have been using technology for so long that you kind of start to think about nature more and more, so you kind of try to escape the technology world, all those garden topics, or it's just coincidence? I mean,
That might have something to
I-
do with our current political climate, but yes, let's just say
oh, so you're kind of thinking more about the apocalypse, and you're just having your own small island
not
and surviving
apocalypse,
there.
not apocalypse, just trying to keep a safe distance between me and other human
And
beings.
the crazy world, yeah. Gosh,
All
that's
right,
not a
guys.
good sign.
Well, I hope you guys have liked this early show. I'm gonna be
Exactly.
away this weekend. Sorry we missed last week. We'll try to and let everyone know before we do other things. We announced this show a day before on Twitter and Facebook, and people seem stoked about it. So, if you don't follow us on our channels, you should,
Do
because
so.
that's where we announce these things, and you'll be more up to date with us. Um,
Yes.
so that's been that for this week. Let me get that
Yeah, pretty much.
music prepped. So you should start doing your dancing, Mr. Peter. Oh, he's already doing it, and get the music. Oh, there's the
One day,
music. Oh
one day I will
yeah.
definitely, hang myself
Uh,
on the table.
Oh no, the camera's in my hand again.
No, no, oh my gosh. Is the music playing?
Yep.
Gosh.
Alright, yeah, alright. We're done here.